Hi, I'm Ellie from crystallinks.com. Today, I just wanted to do a post about something, an article that was in the news a few days ago. I called it Death and Reboot, and it was about a man who three doctors had pronounced dead. And when they were about to do the autopsy, they discovered he was still alive. The man obviously had been dead. So, what happened and how did it happen? When I started Crystal Links, I moved into my apartment, and the man who lived here before, he had a sofa that was semicircle. To this day, I still do a semicircle sofa, and it was covered in a peacock print, which is something I hadn't really thought about. But he said, I will leave you this sofa, which was in pretty good condition, in exchange for a reading, because he was starting on a new part of his journey. He was moving, and so was I. So I said, sure, why not? I gave him the reading and I inherited the sofa, which, if you look at the link that I will post below, you will see a picture of it. But it was basically about peacocks. I was starting a whole new chapter in my life. And eventually, this was 9/1/91. By the time we got to 1995, I was already working on Crystal Links. And Crystal Links, I discovered peacocks, and I discovered peacocks are linked to the phoenix, which is death and rebirth, which means it's the cycle of life. I've always liked things that were circular. I have a picture here, I don't know if you can see it, hanging on my wall where I work. That is a scene that is in a circular frame, which most people don't buy. But when I was fixing up my office, this picture was just sitting there in a store on the wall saying, buy me. So I did. So now we get to death and rebirth, which is old themes that go back all the way to the beginning in every ancient mythology and legend, and God's coming back. And we're still living this now because a lot of people really believe that we are at the end of a cycle in the simulation of time. And therefore, things obviously based on climate change and everything else collapsing, everything is going to end and new beginnings are going to happen. You can look at it that way. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Something is ending, new things are beginning, circles, cycles, the Fibonacci circle, okay, which goes to 0 point, which is another circle. Um, but with death and rebirth, it really just means the beginning, the end of something, which is a subroutine in our simulation, and the beginning of something new, such as a civilization disappears. People say, where did they go? Another another part of the simulation is a civilization just appears out of nowhere. Where did they come from? How did this happen? I describe it as we live in a simulation, and I'll put the link to simulation theory, which many of you know is what I'm here to talk about. But with a simulation, things are not really real. Okay, it's virtual, the glasses, the headset, the whole thing. We believe it's real. The characters created within a simulation believe their world, their simulated reality to be real. And that's the way that goes. With death and rebirth, it means the end of one, the beginning of another. Now, getting to this article of the man who died and three doctors who proclaimed him dead, it's really not that complicated what happened to him. It may have happened to you. It's happened to me on several occasions. It's the man obviously died from whatever. It doesn't really matter. Most likely was an accident because these sudden deaths are accidents. So the man died of an accident. And what happens is when you die, or you have a near death experience, or that kind of out of body experience where your physical body no longer is conscious in this physical reality, what happens is your consciousness goes into, some call it the collective unconscious, I call it the consciousness grids. that allow us to believe that everything here is real when in essence it's an illusion. So the man dies. Somebody else happened to also. Okay, the man dies, his consciousness leaves the physical body, it goes into the creational grids that form this reality. And there's two things that can happen. One, he remains there or gets deleted there. And the other is he gets rebooted and comes back. So I named this part of this death and reboot, meaning you're up, you're out, you're done, but nope, your consciousness gets rebooted and somehow you wind up back in the simulation of this reality. That's basically what happens. Why does it happen? Why did it happen to him and maybe to you and to me? Because when you come into physical reality as a child, when you're born, okay, you are born with specific programming that is set in place in your DNA. That's how it works. That's it. If someone dies and they more likely than not have completed their programming, that's it. They don't come back. But if they haven't completed their programming and there's more to do, then people will come back and they will reboot. Like the body will go, oh, and they're back. Okay. And that's pretty much how it works because we're only projected illusion anyway. So the projection just reboots into the simulation. I really believe now that as we are in end times, the simulation itself, I know it reboots all the time, but I know it's rebooting almost every day now as a whole, not just for you and for me. So they've done the storyline on a lot of science fiction shows where what you believe, this is it, this is the only reality, this is what's going on, whatever. But at the end of the day, that's not exactly the case. There's so much we don't know, we're not programmed to know, and people who say they do understand it, they really don't. We don't know the physics of what goes on besides the math and physics that makes us believe this is real. Some people think they get it, they understand it, they've experienced it, and I'm not one to disagree with that, you know, but that our brains, our consciousness is able to grasp the physics beyond physical reality. No, we're in physical reality to experience emotions until the simulation ends. So here we are, here's somebody who was rebooted. Now, when somebody reboots, okay, whether, no matter how they went out, no matter how they died and came back, it usually has the same parameters. I'm here to help the world. I want to heal people. I want to help people. And of course, that famous expression, I want to make a difference. I came back and now I'm here to make a difference. It's because something in the DNA code of all of us is triggering and saying, you are here to make a difference. And if you're rebooted to that end, it's like, it doesn't matter about the rest of your life. You know, it's like, okay, I got the job, I didn't get the job. Okay, my family wants to talk to me. Nothing matters. You're suddenly in another part of your programming and you've rebooted to that, and that becomes your life. More and more today, people do ask me in their readings, why am I here? How can I make a difference? Should I heal? Should I help? Metaphysics doesn't, in that sense of the word, doesn't really appeal to me. I don't want to lay my hands on anybody. I don't want to do any of the hokey stuff because I know it's silly and it's not what I'm programmed to do. You do what you're programmed to do. So they have to find their way because most people, including myself and everybody else, we're here not to make a major difference. We're here to do the best we can with the programming we have to help overcome the obstacles we have in life. And for most people in recent readings, it's been this struggle to get over their childhood fears, emotional package, what people did to them when they were young, and it just goes on and on and on. You can go for therapy, you can work it out metaphysically, you can do it any which way you want. You can just tell yourself, okay, somebody abused me when I was young, but I am over it. Not until your programming is over it. So you just put it in the shelf, back on the shelf in your mind, and you just go on and you do what you need to do. And that's pretty much the way it is. So we are being rebooted all the time. I can just give you one quick story about me before we end. And years ago, I was out on my friend's boat. It was her husband, her son, and his friend, me, my husband, and my 3 daughters. And big boat, slept 6, I believe. And we were going along in Long Island Sound. And so I was sitting, I don't know, the right side, starboard, and I guess that's port. My friend Leslie was sitting next to me in the back. It was a hot summer day. Somebody accidentally hit the anchor release button. The anchor came around and went around my neck. So of course you do that automatic blank, you're out, okay? You know, you're whatever it is. And the next thing I know, I opened my eyes, which seemed like a second later, and everybody is standing there, children crying, everybody's just looking at me, and like I had no marks on my neck. My husband later told me he saw the anchor scratch my face. My friend Leslie had taken the anchor off, and wherever she threw it, I don't know. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. So what happened to me? Obviously, I died. There's no question about it, but Ellie Crystal died, okay? Time stopped, and a new simulation, a new projected image of me was rebooted back in. It's that simple. I understood it then, couldn't explain it to anybody then. They sold the boat, we went back to land, and it really is rarely, if ever, spoken about again because no one could explain it. But if you understand that we live in a simulation and we are nothing more than projection, illusion here to experience emotions, then it's really not all that complicated. It's physics and math. So however you want to look at near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, people who die and come back, or anything else unexplained, it's just reboots in a simulation. It's not all that complicated. And it's happened to me on different occasions. And you know that it's happened because people tell you. I've had people tell me I was crossing the gutter and a car went through me that I never even saw, you know? And I opened my eyes and both sides of the street are like, are you alive? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, just, you know, I'm just rebooted. I'm supposed to be here for a reason, obviously, to discuss simulation theory, among other things I do. But if you think about your past, maybe a car accident you were in where you tumbled off, you know, into a ditch, or you think about a plane crash, or you think about anything where you should have died. Even currently we have COVID. You're in the hospital and everybody was saying, well, we don't know if this person's going to make it. They make it and they come back, you know, so it is what it is. But just these are good examples. I'm only doing this so you understand simulation theory as it's projections in an illusion to experience the challenges of emotions. I hope you remember that, and I thank you for watching, and to be continued.